Welcome to OnWord Journeys' very first episode of open-hearted conversation spoken through word. It is such an honor and pleasure to be able to share this conversation with one of my very best friends, true inspirations. She is like the fire in my life, and I know for so many others, she is groundbreaking, retired race car driver, true pioneer for women in her industry, Danica Patrick. Danica is a truth seeker and truth speaker. She shares very openly about her individual journey in word. And I hope this is inspiring and offers connectivity for you. Thank you for tuning in, and please enjoy.
I think we should first start off talking about our clothes.
I think that's a great idea. So do you feel that we naturally always wear contrasting, the white and the black?
Well, I did it today on purpose, but I think that, you know, in the past when we've kind of riffed on ideas and talking and doing stuff on camera or photos or anything, you know, you've pointed out how we're like quite different, and like how, you know, you always wear white. I mean, the fact that you even had, I think, a dark shade of gray or black in your logo, you were like, and I put black in, and I'm like, so? It's like, it's just not your color, and white and, you know, taupes and light pinks and like really light soft colors are definitely your palette. Like, there's no wonder why we kept this little blanket here, because it's got some it's a little bright for you, but you know, definitely in the pastellies. And I'm black, and what, you know, I've like always been the harsh, like tough one, and that's kind of been like
driven.
But that's also been like, I think the magic to our relationship is that we're different, but we have this beautiful trust in each other that, you know, your softness and my hardness are ways to learn from each other. So I thought I would embody my color.
I think you're doing wonderful. And I'm so glad we have the opportunity to share in this capacity, which was your suggestion to me. You said, Stace, you should start a YouTube channel.
I love you too.
And I know, and you know, I went in and kind of looked into it, and I've always watched YouTube videos, and with your podcast, seeing all of your YouTube videos that are up there, but I really am not well versed in the area, so it's great, I think, to be able to have space to just communicate and to also be able to share for anyone who wants to.
Yeah, well, the YouTube platform is anything. It's a 1-minute clip. I mean, now there's like the shorts, which are literally like 1 minute. Then you can have, I mean, shoot, I'll listen to Hertz Frequency at night that's a 12-hour recording so that it can play all night. So there's like no rules to the format. There's people that air their stuff on YouTube where it's just audio and it's a static screen of a picture just to get the content on the platform. And then there's other times where it's a demo and you literally need to like watch somebody do something. So I just think YouTube has it's so wide open. And, you know, I also love, I love the algorithm of it, and how when you search for something, more pops up in that same vein. Yeah. Because when I learn, I usually go down a rabbit hole and I learn all I can possibly learn, and I look at from all different perspectives and from different people, and that's how I really like start to sort of derive my own opinion or my own stance on something. And so, you know, I think YouTube algorithm, like if someone searches and finds this video, they're going to find more of your videos because of that, but they're also going to find other things that have to do with, you know, healing and therapy and trauma, and, you know, what it looks like to heal, and the journey. So, you know, I think that's a real positive, because usually when you're looking for one idea and you find 10, it's even better.
Absolutely. All the connective threads. So thank you for doing what you always do for me, which is you activate me. You have helped me find my voice. Speaking of our opposing energies, and yet they're very complementary for both of us. Where I'm more vulnerable and soft and watery, and you've always held space for me around that. You have brought in a very groundedness, a drive, and also, Stacey, you know, use your voice, and you've really helped me find my words and articulate what I'm feeling. It's giving my emotions language, and that's huge.
Yeah, I'm
so
validating them and honoring them. And
Absolutely.
also, there's so much power in the saying things out loud.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you know now, with like, you know, being in the healing work and with coaching people, is that when somebody says something out loud, we've all experienced this as friends and done it for each other, but to be in that space to where you're guiding people through a healing journey, you know, you can watch the emotion just pour out of someone. And a lot of times I think catch people off guard. They're like, whoa, what was that? They maybe have thought of something 10,000 times, and then when it comes out of their mouth, you liberate the energy and move it. And there's so much healing in that. And so we've done it for each other for so long, which is, I know, what, you know, led you down the path of wanting to be a coach and to be able to help people work through whatever it is that's holding them back. So, and you've always held the best space of everyone. If there's anyone that all of us girls have always gone to, like, it always goes to Stacey. And hey, you know, you've always been that just like rock, but yet soft, you know, like the rock to go to, meaning like the go-to for emotions, but because it's so safe, like everyone's feelings are honored around you. And I think that that's why it's so great that you've taken on this new work, and why I know it's going to go so well, because I know how it's gone so well for all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just receiving that. I mean, I think for both of us, as we have gone down our own paths in healing and self-discovery and emotional attunement, and really bringing a more embodied awareness and experience to our authentic selves, it's happened between you and I and within our friends. And it's this beautiful effect that happens around you when one person kind of dives and then the next person dives. And I love that. And at the same time, everyone's journey is so different. And what I'm finding when I'm working with my clients is they're asking a lot about, is the process supposed to feel as challenging as it is? Is this normal to feel discomfort? And I think for me, because I'm very sensitive and I'm an empath, I'm used to feeling heightened emotions. It doesn't mean that it wasn't painful for me, but that's why it was so important for me to work with someone and to have people that I feel safe with to emote and to express. And like you said, let the words have life. Don't let them live within and harbor and create that inner disharmony, because that's what happens. And for my experience, it was quite, and it's always ongoing, but quite long and lengthy, and therapy and different types of guides and modalities that I've worked with. So I would love if you would like to share about your journey, like what brought you to your place where you wanted to go a little bit deeper within, and how was that for you?
I think I was born in the deep, but I mean, I think it's always been in me to seek and want truth and understand, and even into the mystical. Like, you know, I got an astrology reading or psychic reading when I was 18. You know, I lived in England at that point in time, and so I've always been really interested in spaces that are not common. But, you know, my job of being a race car driver for so long really was not that environment. And so it really was probably the big shift probably came in 2015 when we all went to Sedona. And do you remember how obsessed with the orbs we were? We took a picture and we're like, oh my God, there's orbs everywhere. And it's just a lens flare, but it didn't matter. It still
we were in an open space.
We were still so in the mystic, the mystical. We were, we were doing a vortex tour. We were at Kachina Rock in Sedona. We were, we went to a labyrinth and walked around it. We were in it, and we were feeling the vibes and loving the mystery and the idea that there was something more going on. And so that kind of was like the first like big jump into like, okay, what's all this stuff going on? And I have a picture on I have like a digital frame, and one of the pictures is you and I in Sedona sitting on that log at the end, and we were both writing in our journal at the end the last morning.
Yeah.
And I just saw it today again out of the hundreds of photos. So that just kind of represents that time of like going inward.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it was too long after that there was some deep shares about my career and about racing and about how I felt about it all, and kind of just knowing that it really wasn't like my deepest passion. Then you were the first person and the only person I told that to for a very long time, until I retired, really, basically. And so that was years later. And then I'd say it was probably our trip to Tulum.
Mm.
It was a trip that wasn't going to happen, meaning like it wasn't planned, because I was supposed to go on a different trip. And then when that trip got canceled, I was like, well, I still want to go on a trip. And so I was like, hey, Stacey, you want to go to Tulum? And I hadn't been there before, but you had been there before. And so we planned it, and we just had the most like synchronistic, perfect, flowy trip. So much so that I tried to recreate it again the next time I went, and it all fell to shit. So like it just Tulum is one of those special places that there's a special energy there, and it really shows you how to be in the flow, because when you try and do too much, plan too much, reach for too much, the energy there like flicks you off. It just
absolutely
punches you out. It's like, nope, sorry.
Yeah.
And things go wrong. So the less you plan, the better. And it was such a good lesson. But I had that super powerful experience on the beach with the dog Lucy, and met my soul, and cried and had this very out of body transcendental experience where I was like, just had this emotional, huge feeling of love. And I don't know if my eyes were open or closed, but just feeling that deep connection, and just the awareness of love, and that all there is love, and that there's no need for forgiveness because there was never a judgment in the first place. And it was just overwhelming, and I cried for like 45 minutes until you came down. And then when you came down, I cried again for 45 minutes. But it was beautiful. And so once you have a mystical experience, it just shows you there's more, and you can't come back from that. So that was really where, there was, I feel like a lot of people in the spiritual space would say, what would they call that? They'd call that my awakening. Mm-hmm. I don't think I knew that it was an awakening then, but I think that was an awakening, because it was such a unique experience that you can't look away anymore. So that kind of was really what sent me on a deeper journey, and really like our words of the year make a difference too. Mm-hmm. I think that year was truth, which I ended up, all within 3 days at the end of that same year. Tulum was in February of 17. By November of 17, I retired as a full-time driver. I broke up with my boyfriend of 5 years, and I moved out of the house all within like 2 days. And you're supposed to, I think, do one big life change at a time. I did 3.
Well, and that's what you do. You do things quickly and efficiently. That's a gift of the energy that you have. Not for everyone it will work that quickly, but you were able to transition through those big shifts, and you were doing it from more of a place of, I remember you just your heart was so present and so open. And when you have that mystical experience, and like you said, when you realize all there is love, it's like it's like you just received it. And then as you had these other tough changes to make, it's not that it was all beautiful. You felt the pain of it, but it allowed for grieving. It allowed for shifts with your career and your relationship, and allowed you to, for me, witnessing you to be present through it. You had the tools and the support system and the skill set to navigate those areas that were very...
Well, what I did was I got honest about not only, I don't think it was always knowing what I wanted, but knowing what I didn't want.
There you go. Yeah.
And so for people, like, I think that hopefully that resonates with everyone. Like, knowing what you want's great, but also knowing what you don't want is also great information. And so I knew that I didn't want to be in a position where I was not in a car that gave me an opportunity to do what I wanted on the racetrack. I didn't want to be around certain environments that I was in being at the racetrack. I knew that I didn't want to retire and then sit at the racetrack doing nothing, you know, like I just knew that that couldn't be my future. And so like knowing those things sort of helped push me into the next chapter because, I might not have known exactly what I wanted, but I know what I didn't want.
I think that's super valid to bring forward. And I could speak to that through my journey. It was that there was so much unknown, and it's this surrendered state that you're in. But yes, when you get clear on what no longer feels authentic or aligned, when you see what you don't want, it does offer a little bit different pathways. You see other things that are in front of you that once weren't, when you're trying to, I think, force something that doesn't feel right anymore. So I love that. I think that that's a really wonderful tool to use. If you don't feel, because it can feel overwhelming, if you don't see what that is for the future, what is presenting itself right now in the present that's uncomfortable?
I had a little hummingbird tap on the window. Pretty sure it was saying, "You're right, girls. Love little synchronicities."
I do too. Gosh, I think I love you speaking to that and then speaking to meeting your soul. You know, I write, or when I'm working with my clients and for myself, and I know for you, we've read the book, Meet Your Soul. And that's typically something that I will refer out as one of the first things, whether if it resonates soul or higher self, authentic self, essence, any of those resonate with you, just something that is within, that is, so we're not so alone in the journey, and that we have that support and that all love that we can tap into at any time, and learning how to communicate with your soul. So after you met Lucy on the beach, what do you feel? We spoke to the external shifts from relationship to career. What did you feel within that felt like was also shifting you as you were navigating these next chapters?
Truth. And just like knowing, wanting the truth.
Yeah.
Wanting something, and also something that was fulfilling. Something that was exciting. Something that was new. And something that would make growth. I mean, I think at a fundamental level, I feel like growth is like a core value of mine.
Absolutely.
So it's like you can't grow without pains.
Yeah.
So the amount of times I had to tell myself the only way to the other side is through was a lot. But it's really true. And like I tell people, like the healing experience is, well, it's a lot uglier than what you think it's going to be. It's also something that you're not going to run away from either. Once you start the journey, somehow you get this will to step into the next fire. And with every time that you go into the fire and allow it to really burn you down, so like if somebody's trying to heal something and somebody's working through something, I mean, I would honestly say that if you haven't had like a breakdown, if you haven't found yourself all of a sudden bawling your eyes out and convulsing and like having like big life shifts too, it might be friends, family, relationships, job, where you live, whatever, some big change, then I would say that you're probably not there yet.
Yeah, and I think there can be multiple, and the way I describe it as my breakdown was my breakthrough.
Yeah, of course.
And it's interesting what I found myself, the more I resisted, because I could feel it happening a year prior before it presented itself to me. And this was in my early 30s. And I could feel the tension, and I could feel myself busying myself, and I was immersing myself in work and doing whatever I could to not allow for the eruption to happen. And eventually, it took me to the place of the breakdown, and then the breakthrough, and then seeking help, and meeting with my therapist. And that first question that she asked me was, when did you lose your self-worth? And I was like, I haven't even thought of my self-worth. And so there's that rawness. Like, you have to break down in order to be humbled enough to just realize, like, we're putting everything that we once knew away, and we're willing to rediscover the parts of ourselves that have been there with us all along, that just want to be, it's that remembrance, and that we're here, and that we can shift. And it doesn't mean, I feel like, for our past, that it discredits any of that. I think that, like, this is the journey.
Oh God,
it's all a part of it. It's what's brought us to arrival right here.
100%. Like, they all needed to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not one of those people that looks back in life and is like, I regret X, Y, and Z. I mean, there's some bummers in life, but there's definitely like the only thing worse than that is you don't learn from it. So you know, that I feel like is the most important. Hi Ellie, you need to get down, honey.
So the challenging times, I remember you saying to me, and me feeling this myself through this process, because I think we get tested, you know, with growth and with anything that we're doing. If we look at it like a physical workout, I feel the inner work is an emotional and an energetic workout, and we're building new muscles that haven't yet been fully developed. So we're always questioning, meaning, is it right? Is it supposed to feel this way? Is it normal to feel lost, or that sense of surrender and like the hopelessness? It can feel that way because we're shedding old identities of ourselves that no longer is in service to our arrival where we're at. That's how I've seen it through my process. And I think it's important to speak to, because that's the real part. And this actually is not a quick, it does take time. But would you say that you feel that, just like building a physical muscle, it eventually gets stronger and stronger, and with patience and with practice and adding additional modalities and therapies and things like that, that then you start building that inner resilience. And it's like, okay, even though I once thought this was easier, my old ways in life, and this is more work, it does have more reward. It's like you said, you can't go back.
Yeah, you can't go back, and it's all, you get more free. It's not like you just stay in hell. And we've talked about this before, because at the beginning, when you're really fighting the process, it's like, why does it always have to be so hard? And I remember saying to you, like, it's hard. It's just all hard now. And the more you fight the process, the harder it is. And so really, it's like, you've got to go through that part. Well, there will be moments of, like, I look at it like burning a concept or a pattern or something down to the ground. Like, it has to be ash before something new comes along and blossoms.
Absolutely.
Like, and that's the painful part, is like, I'm melting, and then you're gone. And then the good witch comes along. But yeah, I think that's like that it's alchemy. I think that's alchemy, is alchemizing a certain feeling into another one. But at the end of the day, you're reprogramming. And so the body's super efficient at being able to do its normal thing every day. It's like a computer. If you think of your body like a computer, things get a lot more straightforward. Your body wants to repeat the same patterns that it did from childhood, which get established within the first 6 years of your life. All the triggers are set then, all the mannerisms are set then, all those things get set when you're a kid. And so the body, because it's in this primitive sense, ready for fight or flight, because it thinks it's going to be a lion that's after you to chase you and eat you, and that you need to be ready at any time. So the more systems you have on autopilot, the more ready you are to live. Problem is, we don't live like that anymore, but the system's still sort of in that mode. So we have to understand that that reprogramming the system is time consuming and is hard, and it should feel hard, because you're going against everything that you've ever done. But you want a new reality. Your new life is going to cost you your old one, and so it's going to be a process. But it is important for people to know that it is a long process, and that, you know, okay, so I've just kind of painted an ugly picture, and you're all like, why the hell would I do work? Okay, but in the end, you really become so much more free. Yeah. You develop the relationship with yourself, and you start to see at least I can speak for myself, I see everything in my reality as information about myself. Mm-hmm. Like, if you get mad at me if you say like, like, I can't believe you didn't do that, like, why didn't I thought you'd get up early and, take care of this or whatever, I'd be triggered because you're telling me I'm lazy, and I'm like, wait, okay, there's not really a problem other than my own perspective of it. Like, we all have our own personal lens that we see life through, and no one's the same as another. And that we are constantly getting information through that lens. And so many things have very little to do with the actual person. It's about you.
I love that. You're exactly right.
And so once you learn that little life hack that, the way you react says a lot more about you than it does about the person, you can start to dive into that. And then eventually you start healing those parts of you that have fragmented off from a young age when you had to cope. Because guess what? Like, you might, you're trying really hard, and if nothing's ever good enough because you're being pushed by your, mother or father or something like that, you're going to get it later in life. And anytime that someone, treats you poorly, you're just going to think, I'll just try harder. I'm not good enough. Yeah. And so you have to really learn how to unwind those wounds. And so I'm getting long-winded, but healing is hard. Reprogramming is really hard. You'll get more free, and you'll be more happy. And new level, new devil, but also new heights.
Those are powerful words. That's like the most beautiful way to just sum up that process. And I'm so grateful that you're sharing so openly about your personal journey, because I think it's so relatable, and so many of us, and people can see you at your capacity and success and the pioneering, all this that you have brought forward in your life. And at the same time, it also shows that within, you've chosen to do the work, and you've chosen to go into those spaces of the unknown, and you're blossoming and shining and providing everybody with information and education along your journey with your podcast and everything. I mean, I felt like you've always done this, obviously, through our friendships, because your passion for wellness, physical, mental, emotional, and all of it is very powerful. But now having your podcast and having these conversations and encouraging me to have this conversation and hold this space so people can hear it is so connective and relatable. So thank you.
I love you.